I want you guys to keep something in mind before we dig into everything that I'm about to talk about today. This is all coming from an ex-MrBeast employee that goes by the name of Jake Weddle. And so none of this has been confirmed from Beast himself, but this is all information that is allegedly true, and if is true, means that Jimmy should catch a stray meteor. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between that, no silly intros today. I'm done talking about MrBeast. I'm so tired of it. I made 2 videos about Jimmy. I made 2 videos about the Ava situation. I thought I was done. But then another video came out from Dogpack404, who is the same guy who made the I work for MrBeast, he's a fraud video that I didn't cover. I should have covered. It's all about how a bunch of the gambling and giveaways he does are essentially child gambling. I love that. I love gambling. You know, 99% of gamblers quit before winning big. But recently, of course, Dogpack released this second video, the second episode, called I Worked for MrBeast and He is a Sociopath, and in which he interviews Jake Weddle and his experiences at MrBeast and Company. And oh my god, I wasn't even going to make a video about this because I was so avid about not recovering Jimmy Donaldson, but this made me so incredibly angry. My blood is still boiling. You should put a temperature thing to this. A temperature thing. It's called a thermometer, by the way. See, Jake Weddle's interview started off with some pretty mundane, but still weird and off-putting things, like how Jimmy gets, like, jealous of any of his fellow co-workers getting anywhere near as famous as him.
He didn't want anyone to get more popular or have more of a way out necessarily. Like, oh, I'm doing my Twitch thing on the side. Don't do that because you could get famous and leave and talk about me negatively.
Which honestly adds up. I mean, Jimmy has the personality of wet cement. There really isn't much going on behind those eyes. And that didn't really make me necessarily mad. It just kind of confirmed my suspicions that he's an off-putting human being. Which really sucks, because I was honestly considering giving Jimmy the benefit of the doubt when it came to the Beast games, because he's partnering with Amazon Prime, who, like, notoriously mistreats Amazon factory workers, the piss in the bottle incident being one of the many. And so I was like, oh, maybe it's Amazon's fault. But during this interview with Jake, you managed to learn that working for Jimmy Beast and Company is honestly worse than sitting on a conveyor belt in an Amazon Prime factory.
If I was working on a TV show in the 90s, on a show that was a quarter as successful, I could retire today. But now I make dog shit pay, making gajillionaires more money.
And yes, I do recognize that his shirt says www.poop.org. It's been distracting me the entire video as well, but keep with me here because, yeah, pay's bad. That kind of sucks. Ask for a raise. Well, he tried that, which ended in him getting fired. And not just him, though. Like, it would mean one thing if he got fired after asking for a raise. He actually tried to get one of his coworkers to join him in this, which ended in them both losing their jobs. It's a sad story that he tells really well in the video. I'm just going to play the clip.
He had a kid. And I got paid more than him, and I thought that was wild because he was older than me, had a child, we're doing the exact same job, and I'm some 20-year-old fuckhead white guy, why am I getting paid more than him? I brought that up. Yeah, I was talking to this other writer, like, it's fucked up, you know, that's how the pay is, and I want you to get paid more, you know, because you deserve to get paid more. You know, I don't have a kid. And he didn't want to rock the boat. He desperately didn't want to rock the boat. He's just, I like my job, I like, you know, because when you grow up with, you know, nothing, not to say that he did, but I know I did, you know. You get a little something, you don't want to lose it. But he said, hey man, if that's how you feel, you know, like if that's like, I trust you. He stood with me. He went to that meeting with me. And I said my piece and he backed me up. I said, I need XYZ or I'm out of here. And they said, bet. And they gave me a severance check the next day. And they gave him a severance check the next day. And if I knew he was going to lose his job too, I wouldn't have done it.
Like, you can tell that Jake had the best interest of him and his coworker in mind, and when I listened to this part, I was starting to get a little mad, a little peeved, even. But this is the top of the iceberg when it comes to the things that Jake manages to unveil in this video. There's other things that get much worse, but in an effort to keep things in a gradual decline into the pit of hell, where we'll find ourselves eventually, there's another part that drops where he asks Jake about his opinions on MrBeast, and if he thinks when he gives to charity, it's genuine.
Do you think Jimmy really enjoys doing good and helping people?
I think Jimmy wants to be the best YouTuber. I think he is laser focused on one goal, and I think whatever he has to do to achieve that goal, he'll do. And I think it was the smartest decision for him that he calculated, because he's very good with numbers. If I give this homeless guy 10K, what do you mean I'm a bad guy?
And this is something you see a lot of online, mainly with people who still defend Jimmy up to this day, because that is, in itself, a valid thing to defend someone for. Oh, you built wells in Africa? You gave water to people who aren't able to drink H2O? That's very splendid. That's a good thing, and more people should do that, because that's a common human decency. But trying to create this bulletproof vest for yourself by doing good things, That's an ulterior motive. It's not, and it almost makes what you're doing so incredibly ingenuine that you might as well not have even done it. And even with that in mind, that bulletproof vest he's created is being hit with a missile of information. None of this is something that charity work can excuse.
I think when he's generous on camera, it's the least authentic thing in the world. There's an element of, you know, oh, hey, you're crying. That's so good for camera. You know, I'm so glad if you're crying because you're so thankful that you got XYZ, and then you go, oh, I'm so glad he needed it that bad so I could come in and, oh, can you cry more? Oh, it's so good for the camera if you could. Oh, it made me uncomfortable that I was working there, and I didn't like it, and I vocalized it sometimes. And I think that's why I wasn't on camera as much as they said I was going to be.
And this is where we start peering into things that go from, that's sort of a weird thing to do, to like, wow, you're kind of an evil person, Jimmy. Like, you're kind of a person that should be hit with rocks hard. In Minecraft, though, legally. Like, one of the things that he just mentioned there being that he doesn't appear on camera as much was actually something that he talks about a lot in the video. He talks about the fact that his contract when he initially joined Mr. Jimmy Beast and Company was that he would be one of the main characters in the video, like Carl or Chandler or Ava. But of course, once Jake started seeing all the ingenuine poop going through this shit machine, he decided to speak out against it, and if you speak out against Mr. Big Kingpin Jim Dog himself, you end up getting cut out of a lot of videos and kind of put through torture, which, don't worry, there was torture. But before we dive into the literal torture and a war crime that Jake had to endure, let's talk about sex pests. Yay! There's more! Because Ava was a situation that Jimmy still allegedly didn't know about, but there's one he did! Bazinga! Another sex predator has hit the Donaldson household! And he goes by the name of Dakota. Delaware. He's a state. He's named after a state. That's why I'm confused.
Well, there was a known sex offender, registered sex offender, convicted sex offender, on the registry and everything.
I'm gonna blur that out mainly because I'm not here to dox someone on YouTube, because I'm not here to commit crimes. I'm just here to yap about something that made me angry. If you want to go find him, you could probably figure out yourself. I'm pretty sure they're labeled literally everywhere online. But that is actually a real thing, and he's the brother of another MrBeast ex-employee that goes by the name of Jake Franklin, or Jake the Viking, who you might have heard of if you're already wrapped up in this beastly drama going on, because he's been someone who's very openly against Ava Tyson in the past. If you go to his Twitter and scroll, it's literally just like, I knew something was going on behind the scenes. Oh, it's all being exposed now. You know what else is being exposed? That his brother is a sex pest. Ain't that a bitch? And Jake the Viking, not Weddle, this is a different Jake. I know Beast loves hiring Jakes for some reason. He came forward with a statement about his brother being like, it's not that bad, guys. It's not that bad. She was only 11. But he explains, though. He says, yes, Delaware is my brother-in-law. Yes, he is an RSO. And that stands for Kitty Diddler. And said when he was 21, a 16-year-old girl accused him and others of SA when she was 11. Delaware took a plea deal, and that's why he got no jail time, but he still had to register. And he said he was hired before I was. Before being hired, Delaware sat down with Jimmy and Sue, who's Jimmy's big mama, and explained to them everything. So yes, Jimmy knew. Jimmy's aware that there's a predator on his team. The team that he has for a children's channel. I don't think I need to explain in any more detail how that's a bad thing. That's not good, and he shouldn't have a channel. That's too big of a mistake to make. But now, finally, let's return to Jake Weddle, because we're going to talk about him being tortured and having a war crime put up against him now for a video that he made that ended up never even releasing on MrBeast's channel. Isn't that fun? He was tortured for nothing.
There was one video I was in, I got paid a lot for it, but it didn't come out. It didn't come out because it didn't go well. There was a video that came out probably like a year ago, something like that. It got a lot of hot water when it came out. It was the like surviving like $10,000 every day you survive in solitary, or surviving solitary for whatever.
One of those classic ones. One of those old MrBeast videos where it got a bunch of flack online for putting someone in a torture chamber so that they could win money to get out of their poor financial situations, which sounds oddly reminiscent of some Korean show that's gotten popular in the past few years. Which is really funny because back then I vividly remember the internet all coming together to defend MrBeast because he does charity work. So putting someone in a torture chamber for a few days is fine. They win money and he builds wells in Africa. What's the loss here? Well,
people don't know that was the second attempt.
Yeah, there was a scrapped version of this entire video where Jake, our boy Jake Weddle, was tortured in the torture chamber for as long as possible. And he gives us a very brutal breakdown of it. And this is the part that made me so incredibly mad. So I guess let's buckle up. Let's get a bunch of buckles on. I'm so excited.
They had to like get like a separate like tank for, you know, septic stuff. Yeah, there was a hot tub in it. Yeah, there was an ice cream machine. A hot tub that's not connected to a filtration system. Give it 3 days, it's gonna stink. And the ice cream machine, let's talk about that for a second. The ice cream machine has two modes. On, and off reeking of smelly dairy mildew. Like, so I got to choose which sense was assaulted. It got to a point where, like, they weren't turning the lights off. You know, I asked them, I said, can we like have like nighttime hours? And they said no, because it would fuck up the time-lapse shots. The time-lapse of what? Me sleeping? Or me not sleeping?
I know torture is a bit of a rough word, but are you starting to see it now? You starting to feel it? He felt it. It's absolutely crazy to think about because Jake is ballsy for coming forward. He even posts a video on his own YouTube channel talking about how he literally has so many things he had to avoid because of all the NDAs and possibility of Jimmy coming after him for things he could say. Like he's the fucking mafia or something. But this is so scary because, like, this is one failed video. Jake was the victim of a failed video where you learned, like, oh yeah, maybe you should turn the lights off in a solitary confinement chamber or people go insane. Ever heard of the Russian sleep experiment? Which isn't real, by the way. Sorry to shatter your dreams, middle schoolers, but like that's crazy. But my thought is, how many more of these could have happened? How many more people have been tortured in MrBeast videos and then they didn't get released, and so they redid it with all the safety things put in place, and so those videos came out because, you know, no one was put in physical bodily harm at that point.
I had a lot of good people looking out for me saying this we gotta stop. So I just wanted to turn the lights off, and I'm vocalizing to people, I wish the lights would turn off. And I go up to my friend, my good friend, and I go, they're not turning the lights off. He goes, what? That's a war crime. We're not allowed to do that to terrorists.
Are you getting it now? Like, Jimmy, buddy, you know I'm gonna have to smack you over the head with the giant comedical hammer that says wham now, right? Like, I'm gonna have to turn your head into an accordion. I am angry. What the hell? And this isn't even the worst. It gets even worse. There's another torture tactic that Jimmy manages to use on his friend, buddy, pal, ex-employee that he then talks about in the video.
He goes, you're gonna run a marathon. You're gonna do it on that treadmill over there.
Huh, okay. Yeah, run a marathon, a 26.2 mile thing in a solitary confinement chamber. That's great. Yeah, let's just add torture to the hangman. We're getting there. No subliminal messages here, Jimmy. But we're getting there.
Like, there was an element of, oh, Jake will do what we want because he's in-house. You know, that's one of the reasons why they got me. Jake's, he's an inside guy, so he'll do whatever. If I refuse, it's just, oh, that's the whole video. I guess the budget's, you know, so much money up in flames because Jake said he wouldn't want to do the thing. I asked him, how long do I have? He goes, until I get back. And I'm running until 3 a.m. All right, I got off the treadmill. Oh, the blisters I had on my feet were like, you wouldn't believe, just all over, just these big red. I couldn't walk. My muscles were like just the lactic acid. I got off the treadmill, and then the people that came in to like ice my feet, you know, make sure I was good. Then that's when I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out.
And so for this video, Jake was promised $300,000 if he lasted 30 days. 30 days was the minimum. They were going for 100 days, but 30 days would be enough for a video. I don't know in what universe they expected him to last 100 days, though. He was going to come out of that chamber looking like a Fallout ghoul. But since he left early, he ended up making only around $100,000, which is nice. That's still a whole bundle of smackaroos. But most of it, around $44,000, went towards paying taxes, because that's what happens when you earn a lot of money in a year. Starting to see how Jimmy's philanthropy is starting to look a lot less philanthropic? Yeah, it is to me. And I have one more clip to show, but there's no extra crimes to add to this laundry list of reasons that Jimmy should despawn his channel. But I wanted to add it just because it perfectly encapsulates the emotion, or dare I say lack thereof emotion, that Jimmy feels ever at all.
They brought it on people I liked and Jimmy. Then everybody was around me making sure I was good, making sure I was okay. But Jimmy had his, like, he was sitting in the chair turned around like an evil villain. Swear to God. Everyone was looking at me, and he was like Lex Luthor over there. He stands up. He does the exact same thing when he's pretending to have a human connection. You know when you're watching a video, and he's like, oh, stop, you're gonna make me cry. And he, like, touches his eye or whatever as if he's crying. He's just... I didn't have to pretend to do that shit. She says, As if rehearsed. Yeah, you know, your mental health's the most important thing. You know, just want to make sure you're okay. And the last thing we want you to do is... I can almost hear the word Sue come out of his mouth. The S. He just stopped right before it got out.
Because, of course, in a situation where someone who he would at one point consider his friend was in essentially torture for multiple days at a time, the one thing that comes to mind at first is the money he could lose. As I said earlier, I didn't want to make this video. I don't give a shit about MrBeast. I don't think he's a good person, but honestly, I've never thought of him as a person, period. He's more just a character. He's honestly a robot, and he's just another billionaire that clearly cares more about the paycheck he makes at the end of the day than the people he's trying to allegedly help. despite the people he's probably hurting in the process. There's, of course, been more little things that have dropped since then. Rosanna Pansino's been posting consistently about this, which is the same girl I made a video on a few months ago about how she got angry because she was kicked out of a hide-and-seek game. But she tweeted talking about how people have been coming to her and people she knows, asking them to fabricate stories in return for money, which is a really good look. That's cool. As well as the fact that MrBeast's ex-girlfriend made 2 different posts saying, YouTube, you need to reevaluate who you're putting on your trending page, and also that she's had to go through months of therapy and years of silence because of her relationship with MrBeast. And he's still such a great guy, isn't he? But of course, this is where I'm wrapping things up. I'm done talking about Jimmy. I don't think that there's another thing that could make me talk about Jimmy unless Batman brings me to Arkham Asylum himself and beats it out of me. But if something crazy happens that's worth a video, let me know. I'm still willing to possibly negotiate, but if you truly want all the MrBeast drama the second it releases, I have a buddy named Cam Nuggets who has been covering this to an insane degree. He's been covering it really, really closely, and he's been making sure that it does not stay buried. So, of course, go subscribe to Cam Nuggets, and of course, subscribe to me. Maybe, perchance. Usually my videos aren't this angry. Usually I'm a little giggly, silly, goofy guy, but this stuff made me so mad, and I could not keep it under the covers. What does that? That's not even an analogy. But of course, like the video if you liked it, and dislike it if you're still a fan of MrBeast. I know, Stockholm Syndrome can be a bitch. But anyways, as always, adios, arrivederci, goodbye, good night, and El MrBeast, baby, you stupid bitch!